Hello, welcome to Working Dragon Mystic, where we discuss real, metaphysical, and occult knowledge so that you can manifest real and tangible results in your life. This week, we're going to talk about Samhain, or Halloween, or Samhain. This is hands down one of my favorite holidays. I think everyone who's interested in magic and the occult loves Halloween. First off, this is one time a year when any of us who like a darker aesthetic or gothic more aesthetic of some kind, we can get things to decorate our house. Hey, and I absolutely love the colors. Granted, I'm more of a black. I even tried to get me an orange headband for my hat. I may still keep looking into that to see if I can get me a hat band for my hat as we continue to shoot videos here for October. But I wanted to continue our series on a practical and simplified version of celebrating the Sabbats, or these holidays. And of course, Halloween is always a fan favorite, so we have to talk about it, don't we? So here we go. First off, what is the primary focus of Samhain? So many of these have already had focuses. They've took part in the Wheel of the Year and everything. Well, interestingly enough, the Celtic New Year is Samhain. It is Halloween. This is actually why it has the nickname of the Witch's New Year. This is a great time for new beginnings. You can actually utilize this for New Year rituals. Because this is official, and it's also officially viewed as the end of summer. So that's pretty cool too for a lot of people. I think where I grew up, fall's already here. We called this fall, so it is the end of summer. I don't know when we officially would say fall started. Everyone has their own take. I usually rely on my calendar when it tells me fall starts, fall starts. Okay, so here in the U.S. this year, at the time of this video, according to the calendar, fall will start on September 22nd. So essentially that would be the end of summer. So you've got to understand different regions, different traditions are going to have a little bit of a loose meaning on here. And that's one of the things I do try to encourage. Understand that there is a loose and fluid understanding of traditions here, and that you can play around with that a little bit and make the holiday your own and celebrate it in a way that truly benefits you and your path. Now, of course, we always do talk about how you can utilize these energies. Well, this part of the year actually is wonderful for transformation, regeneration. It's a great time for honoring the dead, divinations, and preparing for winter, as well as honoring the harvest. Now, what does that mean, Drake? Honoring the harvest? Okay, well, first off, let's just start with the list. Transformation. This is a time of the year when everything is in transition. It's changing. It is shifting. We are going from that summer just energy that we had. We're going to the beach. We're going to barbecues and all this. Everything's starting to wind down. It's starting to cool down. For those who actually do work in the fields and stuff, we're pulling in a lot of the harvests and everything. And in fact, this is what is to most people viewed as the final harvest. This is when we are getting ready for winter. We are prepping. But at the same time, the earth isn't dying. It's going to sleep. And sleep is rejuvenating. It's regenerating. This is really when the earth is starting to take that time to rest and go into a kind of winter sleep so that it can renew itself and ready itself for spring. And because of that, this is a great time for regeneration, and part of that regeneration could be facing some stuff you've been dealing with. I love to do shadow work this time of year. Of course, honoring the dead. That's kind of self-explanatory. You could do it in general. Honor friendly spirits that are passing by. That's always been a thing with Samhain and Halloween. In fact, the masks and everything were to try and hide from the dead that people might be afraid of. However, for me, when it comes to honoring the dead, this is when I take special care to make sure I'm remembering family members and friends and associates that I care dearly for who have passed on. And I also make a point to just honor my ancestors in general on this day, because no matter what you might think of your ancestors, they built the foundation that you are currently standing upon that makes you who you are today. Now, what you take and do with that foundation, that is who you are, and that shows your character. I can't say all my ancestors were good people, but I can say that I've taken what I was given, what I stand upon, and I've done the absolute best to be a good person based on that. And there's even people in my life, I don't view them as good people, but I honestly think they taught me something. They taught me what not to be. So I am grateful for the lessons that even those people have given me. So there are ways to honor the dead and ancestors, even if you may think you disagree with them, that is still beneficial to your path and practice. And of course, with the fact that this time of year, the energy is so high and what most people would refer to as the veil so thin, this is an excellent time for divinations. Even with the fact that we are now dealing with new beginning energy here, as so many people do view this as a new year, a point of the new cycle. And that's perfectly great. So divinations is a great tradition here to begin to plan out the rest of the year or the coming year even. For me, I actually do divinations here to plot out a large chunk of how winter's going to go, to try and get an idea of, is it going to be a harsh winter, an easy winter, what kind of ideals or supplies would I like to have on hand, would I like to take any extra precautions. This is going to differ from where you live. Obviously, currently where I live, I ain't worried about any real heavy snow anymore, or ice storms or anything like that. In fact, the season I have to worry about, hurricane season, we'll be past that by Halloween. So more this time around, I'm doing divinations to help friends and family members check in on people, and even to try and check in on my path. How am I doing? What can I actually do to make sure my path progresses further forward, to bring me further along my path and to better me and my family? That's generally where I gear my divinations. Honoring the harvest, that I know was one that a lot of people's like, what? Look, whether you know it or not, because I know a lot of people are detached from the concept of in-season foods or harvest and farming in general, because we can go down to the grocery, pick up whatever we need and come home. You need fruit, go to frozen foods. We can get year-round, we can get any fruit we want. So we don't really understand that. But honoring the harvest, honoring the work, and honoring the bounty that has been given to us is actually kind of important. You really should be mindful of where your food comes from, as well as the supply of it, how much you need, what you need, or understand your food stores and what you need to get you through the winter. Traditionally, this is what this was. We were harvesting, we were bringing in foods. We were finishing off the last of the summer produce that couldn't be stored. We were making sure we had food stores to get us through winter, whether it be salted meats, gourds, pumpkins, wheats, apples, stuff like that. And we'd be stocking up for winter. Now, that's perfectly fine. Part of Samhain for me is preparing for winter. But when I'm preparing for winter, I know a lot of things slow down a lot. I actually try to make a point to get as much stuff that I'm trying to get pared down or cleaned out, almost like a spring cleaning, if you will. I try to clear it out so that I don't have to worry about it when the holidays get here. Because we all know we got more crap comes in the holidays, so I try to clean out what I'm not using to prepare for that. I also try to make sure I have plenty of books and projects to keep me busy through the winter as things slow down. That one has not been an issue since I've started this channel. You all keep me wonderfully, wonderfully busy and constantly something to work on and think about. You guys have been a treat when it comes to getting through winters, and I love it. Thank you very much for that. So I do think about that. Of course, part of what I also do is I look out in my yard. I make sure I got my grass cut and ready for winter. I put away the mowers. I put away all the stuff that I won't be using throughout the winter. I cover stuff. I make sure the grills get a good once over and check, make sure they're ready for winter. Now, a lot of people thinks that means I put my grills away. Not really. I do make sure they're covered. I make sure I get a good clean on them while I have the ability to get out there and work and get them good and ready. But at the same time, I got no problem running my smoker in the dead cold of February. I don't. It takes a little more work, a little more effort, but I have no problem doing it. So I do make sure that they're good and cleaned, and all the summer cooking that I do on them has been more or less cleaned off, and they're spiffied up, and they're ready to go. I make sure their covers are on them because I know it's going to be a far wetter season. There's going to be a lot of dew that's constantly sitting on them. So I do want to make sure their covers are kept on them and everything's kept clean. Give them a good wipe down on the inside as well. So just general house chores can actually be viewed as preparation for winter. And this is a great time on your calendar to ready yourself for that, as well as doing your magics for the transformation, the regeneration, and your ritual work to honor the dead. Now, spiritual intentions we've already discussed quite a bit. Divinations, we talked about. Honoring friends and family members who've passed on. That is definitely one of the things we do here in this house. Prepare for winter, both magical and mundane. Like I said, prepare your house, prepare everything you need. Try and actually look at your journal, though. What winter rituals do you want to do? What do you want to work on during this part of the year when things are going to be a bit more quiet? There's a nice kind of settling about fall and winter. That energy is just a bit calm. Even around the holidays when the energy spikes, like around Yule and Christmas, everyone's in this kind of joyless mood of the holidays, or grumpy because of the holidays. But the evenings have this nice, cool calm about them. How are you going to utilize that in your practice? And I do encourage you to utilize it. How are you going to utilize the cool and crisp air? Perhaps go out for a winter walk in the park or a fall stroll. Those are wonderful things I actually enjoy doing. New beginnings is a huge thing here. A lot of people do focus on new beginnings with Samhain. Starting a new hobby, starting a new path working, starting a new area of research. This is a great time to do it. In fact, I have often in the past lined up many of my path workings with Halloween or Samhain as that Witch's New Year concept, or the Celtic New Year concept. I used it as the starting point for a year-long path working, which I would start at Samhain and work it all the way over to the next Samhain. I do find that is energetically adds a little something to it, though I have also worked them from January 1st to the end of the year, and I've found great results there. So it's whichever one you want to do, but this is a great time to consider starting a new path working or hobby or area of research. Also, a fantastic time for healing and regeneration rituals. Now, if you know anyone who's they're fighting perhaps an illness, a sickness, maybe they're just having general troubles, this is a great time for some healing magic to be done. You can really harness that aspect of this season, that energy and that understanding that so many people put into the season. Remember, those traditions, even if not yours, those beliefs and those ideals, they help to gather that energy there. And because that energy is gathered, even though you may not be part of that tradition, you can utilize that symbolism and that energy and direct it to where you're wanting to go. So for healing and regeneration, this is a great thing to do. I remember when my dad was still alive, I actually utilized Magick quite a bit to help him with his arthritis. And winters were really the hardest on him, but I found that when I was utilizing Magick, winter and summer, we was able to get winters just as easy on him as summer. So it was a great time to do that. And of course, shadow work. I know we mentioned it passing here earlier, but shadow work is one of my favorite things to do this time of year, and it's something that I do every year. Some people will start their shadow work on Halloween and work it to the end of the year. And if you think you have a large chunk, that's a great idea, because that does give you 2 months to work with there. And then you close out the year completing that shadow work, and you go into the new year ready to go. Me personally, I like to conclude my shadow work on Halloween. So I'm doing a full month path working all through October, where I'm diving in and checking on myself and looking at myself and doing the shadow work I need to do. I do this twice a year. And Samhain or October is when I try to get one done. And I'm building up to one large ritual, of course. So I'm doing multiple rituals. Usually it's daily, at least 5 times a week that I'm doing ritual for shadow work all through October until I get to Halloween. And then on Halloween, I do the large conclusion ritual, which is, depending on how the shadow work's gone, it's usually the easiest, the most relieving, because it's the conclusion ritual, or it's the hardest ritual, because there's so much that's already just churned up to the surface that this is the final ritual. This is where it all comes to bear, and it can be the hardest ritual to do, even though afterwards I still am left with that same relief feeling. So it just depends on how the path working goes, how that last ritual will turn out. But it is one of the things that I do enjoy doing this time of year. And if you're thinking of trying shadow work, if you've never done it, or you've done it before in the past, this is something that you do your whole career. You don't do shadow work once and walk away. You're always going to be needing to do new shadow work. But this is a great time of year to utilize these energies to do so. Now, of course, y'all know by this point, I like to do foods and stuff to celebrate the holiday that are based around the crops that are in season this time of year. And this being the final harvest, well, what foods are we going to be using? I love this time of year personally. So the foods that are very common to use here are apples and blackberries, which I'll be honest, apple pie and blackberry cobbler, some of my favorites. Many of you know I stay away from sugars or carbohydrates practically all the time anymore. But I will allow myself on a holiday event or a holiday meal to have those as a celebration. The rest of the time, I'm going to stay on track for eating healthier for my health. So, you know, that is what that is. But I do believe that if you actually allow yourself to eat in these celebrations and take part in this, that actually staying on track the rest of the year is actually far, far easier. And there is something said for feeding the soul and enjoying the holidays as well. Now, a lot of things people don't think about as being part of this final harvest, but were actually pretty big when I lived on the farm, were stuff like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, and cabbages. Those really were some that would come in, and cabbage keeps a while. But if you don't cut it or take the outer leaves off, cabbage will keep a while. Once you cut it, the clock's ticking. You better use it. And cabbage soups, fried cabbage. I remember cabbage and smoked sausage was something my mom would do a lot. Cabbage and ground beef. I mean, she just found so many different things that she did with cabbage. Of course, she would always do corned beef and cabbage too, an old favorite. And it is still, to this day, a favorite dish of mine. Cranberries, they're part of this harvest as well. And go figure, we do see a lot of cranberries throughout fall and the holidays. That's why. And I personally do enjoy cranberries. I have made cranberry sauce from scratch. Perhaps I may do a video on it. If you haven't done it, it's a lot of fun to cook the cranberries down, to watch them crack and pop and make that chunky cranberry sauce. So yeah, they're a lot of fun. I actually do often make a cranberry mead this time of year. I do love making meads this time of year. I don't know, it's something about the cooler weather. I love the way they finish. So I do a lot of my mead brewing this part of the year. Grapes and okra. Now, any of y'all from the South, if you're like me, okra, you grew up with it. Whether it be fried, whether it be thrown in a gumbo, okra is just one of those foods you grew up with. If you've never tried okra, it is an interesting thing. If you just try to cook it, boil it, or fry it, it gets real slimy. It can be really nasty. But if you're using it in a gumbo, that protein that develops that slime actually works as a thickener. So you're utilizing it, but you're also putting so little ochre in there, none of the slime actually stays. It just helps to thicken your gumbos up. Or your stews. I've seen people use it in stews and chilies as well as a thickener. But I think perhaps my wife's favorite way to eat okra is just to straight fry it. She loves good fried okra, and it's hard not to. It is very delicious. Of course, pumpkins. What would Halloween be like without pumpkins? And those are, again, another staple. Here we're seeing those gourds that are coming in from the harvest. And I think we all know what pumpkin pie is. Again, seriously, we don't get through the holidays without pumpkin pie around my house. It is a favorite. And sweet potatoes. We love us some sweet potatoes. My mom used to make a sweet potato casserole. Not too many people like it. Before I got off sugar, I could not go through the holidays without the sweet potato casserole. I couldn't. And I'll be honest, it had sugar, it had brown sugar, it had marshmallows. It was basically sugar. They add so much sugar to the sweet potatoes, it's just basically sugar. These days, I can't eat it. There are so many people I know who still do adore sweet potato casserole. It is too sweet for me now. I can't eat it. However, I do enjoy sweet potatoes baked in the oven with a little brown sugar and honey on them, or a little butter even. Amazing. So there you go. Those are some quick rundowns of things you can utilize food-wise in your meal prep to have a celebration, because these times of years were often viewed as feast times. They were viewed as a time of celebration, a time of plenty, and it was and I think it still should be. I really do. That's one of the reasons around holidays you do see these large meals. We're carrying on those traditions, and that is a tradition me and my wife still do. Perhaps it's just because we're Southern, we love to cook, and we expect those big meals during the holidays. But I'll be honest, everywhere I've traveled, that seems to be a thing that just happens. And that's a great way to celebrate. And it's also a great way to have some leftovers and not have to cook for a week if need be. Or you can plan out just a simple meal, something that's not going to have any leftovers, and hand pick a few of these foods to try. Try some of the new ones if you haven't. If you're interested in any of these foods I've mentioned, whether it be fried okra or something, and you don't know how to cook them and you're wanting to try it, you know what? Drop me a message. I will do a video showing you how to make some good fried okra or something. All right. Now, us personally, we've touched on it throughout the video. Me and my wife, we love to do brewing and meads, and we do take this time of year. We make a lot of blackberry meads or multiberry meads or cranberry meads. Those are some of my wife's favorites. And so this time of year, I try to get a batch of mead into the fermenter to make a good mead. And then a single batch usually makes somewhere around 12 bottles. So I usually do 2 fermenters, or is it 24 bottles? Anyway, it makes a lot of bottles. I want to say it's 12 bottles. It might be 24 though. But I usually do 2 fermenters worth, which is about 10 gallons of mead roughly. And we get that bottled up, and that's the mead that we use throughout the year as we go into the next year, doing other holidays, birthdays, special ritual events, or even giving gifts to friends. That's the mead that we use. And of course, we always do some kind of seasonal food dinner. And we try to not overdo it too much. And we pick and choose what foods are there. This year we're actually talking about, other than maybe the pies, because the pies are something we don't want to give up, keeping the rest of it focused more in on our healthy eating. So, that'll probably mean some cabbage and Brussels sprouts with a meat dish and then a pie on the side. And of course, all of our magical workings, my divinations, my shadow work, spell working for friends, family, and clients that I'm going to be doing for health and well-being, all that stuff. Anyways, I hope this video has given you some ideals on what you can take and utilize and make Samhain your own for your practice and your family. Remember, it doesn't have to be fancy. It can be simple. If you just simply want to set up a simple altar to honor your ancestors or honor a loved one who's passed, maybe make a simple dinner for yourself to celebrate the harvest, great. Even if you just want to say a quick prayer, also fine. You don't even have to work with the dead if you don't want to. That's okay. There's a lot of people who don't. But take these ideals, shape it into something that you want to do, something simple. If all you want to do is a simple candle spell, do it. If you don't want to do anything, don't. But do try to enjoy the season. Try to relax. Try to make the best of it. Remember, we're all on this trip together, and I hope that we can all utilize this knowledge and information to better ourselves and get through the day happier and better than we started it. Alright? I'm Drake. This has been Working Dragon Mystic, and I'll see y'all next time. Take it easy. Bye-bye.